Oh. Well, hi everyone, and welcome to a very late next episode for RJ Draws. I was actually planning to do this episode about a week ago, but I woke up on the day I was going to film and I had no voice. It was completely gone, and it didn't come back until about 3 or 4 days later. So at that point, it was like the week's pretty much over. There's no point in doing anything now. So today, I'm still going to be drawing more puppets. Today I am drawing Plume, the piano monster. It's going to be the first one. I'll put up the picture of what's going to inspire me to do this drawing. So, boy, Plume. Where do I start with Plume? Well, I can start, he wasn't really one of my original plans, but I can start with the fact that his concept was something that I had gotten while looking through a book that had a bunch of concept designs for goblins done for Labyrinth. And I thought, oh, it'd be so cool to, combine one of those. So the initial concept art for Plume looked very, very different. He had a little bit more of a serious face. He was still supposed to be fluffy, though. It was just supposed to be like serious fluff, if that's even a thing. And as I was making him, I started with the mouth. The mouth looked good. Then I put in the eyes, and they were derpy from the beginning. They just had this. They kept popping out of the indent I had tried to give them, and I thought it was hilarious. So I didn't. I was like, you know what? I'm cool with him looking like this. I'm cool with giving him a derp face. So that's how Plume got his derp-like expression. And it just kind of stuck. Just kind of this huge wide-eyed thing. Let's see. Just kind of came out as like this silly little creature, but you know what? It worked. I liked it. Filming's been pretty difficult lately, even for this, not only because of my voice, but it's very hard to film anything when you don't even have the privacy of your own room. You gotta share it with someone. So for me, I share a room with someone, and well, it's hard because they can be gone for hours and you think, okay, well, they're in class or something, and then all of a sudden they'll just reappear, and then it's like, oh, I gotta stop what I'm doing. I've had a lot of filming takes where I've had to completely scrap them because my roommates just walked into the room. And I've tried locking the door, but when I'm doing filming, but she just ends up banging on it, so I eventually stopped because it caused just as much disruption as her actually walking in. So it didn't help the problem. It just added to it. So it got to this point where it's like, you know what? Fine. I guess I just won't be filming as much as I'd like to. And that happens, It's like you're in school. You don't have time to film as much as you want to. If you're wondering why I'm drawing piano keys here, it's because Plume, his kind of story background is he's a piano monster. So he hides inside of a grand piano, and then when you're playing, he's supposed to pop out and prevent you from playing, because that's his home. It's like, you're banging on my home, you're disrupting it with your music. So he just comes out and sits on the keys when you're trying to play, so you can't play. And that's why he's a piano monster. I had this whole idea back when I had initially made him, because I was still at home when I had made him. I had this whole, like, sketch idea where someone I knew was going to be playing the piano, and I'd have Plume come out and keep disrupting them. But the people I knew that played the piano weren't available. So, once again, another scrapped idea. There's a lot of scrapped filming ideas that I've had. So, at this point, the audio went out. Well, it didn't really go out. My roommate came in again, and she just stuck around, so I had to take out the main audio from this. But I'll explain what's happening here and continue on with my story of talking about scrapped ideas. There were several scrapped ideas at the beginnings of Lucy Let's Plays. I remember one scrapped idea was I wanted her to do... what did I want her to do? There was a specific game that I had wanted her to do at the time, but I just didn't have the money for it. I believe that was one of the Zelda games. It might have been Majora's Mask. Yeah, I had wanted her to do Majora's Mask, but I didn't have the game, and I didn't have the money for the game at the time, so that ended up as a scrapped one, and she ended up starting Link Between Worlds instead. Another scrapped idea, specifically with Plume. Plume's the hardest to put into things, because he doesn't really have much of a purpose except to be a piano monster, and when I moved out for the school year, there weren't any pianos. So all of a sudden I have this character whose whole identity is based around living inside pianos, and there were no pianos. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do with him now? Which, starting from there, he started to develop that gravelly voice that if you've seen episodes he's been in, he kind of has this crackly voice. And that accumulated mainly because I needed to add something more to his character other than he lives in the piano, since there were no pianos to film. So that's how he got that gravelly voice, and then it became sort of more of a matter of how do the other characters interact with him, considering everyone else can pretty much speak English, and Plume speaks no known language. Well, he speaks whatever language he speaks, the crackling noise. That could be a language for all we know. So anytime I used him, it would be how does he interact with the other characters? How would he help or not help other characters in certain situations? Which is how part of this stuff for the Cheer Up Gravy sketch came from. Is Plume supposedly is trying to help cheer up Gravy like everyone else, but no one has any idea what he's saying because he doesn't speak words. So that's starting to be a continuous gag line I have with him going. In a sketch I recently filmed, again, it's sort of that issue where they're trying to get information out of Plume, but all he does is he makes that crackling noise, and he just stares at you with those derp-like eyes, and it got to the point where the other characters are like, fine, you can go and do what it is, whatever you do, because we have no idea what you're trying to convey. But, yeah, so, there we go, finished up. This keyboard isn't entirely accurate. But there you go, there's Plume leaping onto the keyboard because someone's probably playing it. He's going to stop him from playing. Okay, now we're going to do Gravy. Gravy, he's a very, very kind of sad dog. And it's funny, Gravy, I hadn't actually planned to make Gravy. He just kind of happened. Well, I'll explain it. It was more than he just kind of happened. What went down is I received some old puppets from the church I used to do puppet shows at, because we needed a team of new puppets out where I do puppets now. So the church is like, here, we aren't using these anymore. You can totally use these. And when I first got Gravy, he was a mess. I mean, just his whole overall design, I don't know what they were thinking, but he had no eyelids, and he looked extremely creepy. In fact, they weren't actually sure if he was a rabbit or a dog, or they didn't know what he was, so he just kind of was there. And for some reason I'm like, oh, a future project. So here, we'll give him a lone tear down his face. Yeah, I was like, oh goody, a project. I'm totally going to make him one of the coolest looking puppets, since everyone thought he was creepy to start. So I did that. And the original plan is I was going to give him away to sort of replace Chester once I was gone from the place where we're doing shows now. But then after I was done, he just looked so cute and so sad. I couldn't bear to part with him. So that's pretty much why we have Gravy now. At least for the moment. I still might donate him when I'm done where I am now doing Sunday school shows. I haven't decided yet. That's kind of been like an ongoing battle in my head. I don't know if I can bear the part with Gravy or not, but he's such a sweet, he looks like a sweet soul now, and he's just always sad. I think that was just based on the way I made his eyes. I didn't intend for him to look so sad. It just kind of happened. But I'm glad it did, because I like it. He's got character. He's not just a blank face. He's actually got a personality to a certain extent, even though that personality is to almost be like an Eeyore. He's looking at a fat bumblebee, wondering, why does a bumblebee, why do they fly into things? That's so sad. You know, he's that kind of character. But I've actually had a lot of fun with Gravy. I like doing the sad, mopey voice, and the skit Cheer Up Gravy that we did on the channel. I really enjoyed that. I've been trying to come up with more skits like it to do. But for some reason this semester it's been increasingly hard to have the room to myself to be able to do filming. So that's been a difficulty I wasn't expecting, that just kind of came out of nowhere this semester. And then the other one is I've been so busy preparing things outside of filming that I haven't really had time to do as much filming as I did the last semester or over the summer. But I try to put up what I can. And I do enjoy doing the filming. It's just something that it's true. It's really hard to do constant filming if it's not your job. And it's funny because you can't really do a job in filming unless that's all you're doing, but if that's all you're doing, then it's really hard to be able to support yourself if, you haven't made it yet. So it's a very quite a paradox, I'd say. It's a bit of a paradox, which is why I've tried not to focus too hard on filming and go, oh, I'm just going to do nothing but this. Because I want to keep my options open at the moment, you know? I don't want to restrict myself. And I mean, there have been well-known YouTubers that have been like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to work crazy hard until I make it. And it's like that's good for them. And they also decided that at a time where it was kind of easier to be like, oh, I can do this and I can do freelance on other things and I can live off of this. That's not necessarily the case anymore, especially since there's been so many successes now that it's one of those things where when no one really knew if it was possible, it was possible, and now that people know it's possible, it's not as possible anymore, I guess, if that makes any sort of sense. But kind of over the summer when I really started putting things on the channel, I had the same mindset where it's like, oh, you know, I'll do this, and then once it becomes something that I can make money off of, I'll make it the thing I do all the time. And now it's kind of become more of the thing I do to relax. And also a chance to practice my drawing skills and practice works that might not necessarily go into my professional portfolio, but you know, to have a chance to be able to take some time and work on this sort of thing. Like this, I probably wouldn't put in my portfolio, or I might. I mean, it just kind of depends on how the product ends up. I already do have a piece with gravy in it that's in my portfolio, actually. I did this portrait painting and it's got gravy in it and it's got a couple other puppets. And that's like a really intense oil painting that I spent maybe a month on. So that's in my portfolio. So, there we go. Put some definition on his nose as well. There's gravy. Looking all sad. So there's this episode of RJ Draws. I hope you enjoyed me drawing some more puppets. Next time, I will not do puppets. I will actually do something different. I might do animals or pets that I've had. I haven't decided yet, but next time it won't be puppets. If you enjoyed watching this, go ahead and put a pause up and press that like button. And don't forget to comment and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And I will see you guys in the next drawing.